Question 1. If Marco must answer quickly, which idea is signaled when the class start feeling nervous after a certain chime is repeatedly paired with a pop quiz? Option A, classical conditioning. Option B, operant conditioning. Option C, metacognition. Option D, constructivism. The correct answer is option A, classical conditioning. This describes classical conditioning because a neutral stimulus becomes linked with an emotional response after repeated pairings. Operant conditioning is not the best choice because it focuses on consequences after behavior rather than associations before a response. Metacognition is different because it concerns thinking about one's own thinking, not learned emotional associations. Constructivism does not fit because it explains active meaning making, not a reflexive conditioned response. Question 2. Rather than guessing, Marco should connect an instructor adds praise after a student participates and participation increases with which concept? Option A, extinction. Option B, negative reinforcement. Option C, positive reinforcement. Option D, punishment. The correct answer is option C, positive reinforcement. This describes positive reinforcement because a desirable consequence is added after a behavior, making that behavior more likely. Extinction is not the best choice because it weakens behavior by withholding reinforcement. Negative reinforcement is different because it removes an unpleasant condition rather than adding a reward. Punishment does not fit because it aims to reduce behavior rather than increase it. Question 3. Curiosity rises when Marco reads that the class complete homework early to avoid a weekly reminder call home. Which term solves the puzzle? Option A, positive reinforcement. Option B, negative reinforcement. Option C, classical conditioning. Option D, response cost. The correct answer is option B, negative reinforcement. This describes negative reinforcement because a behavior increases because it helps the learner avoid or remove something unpleasant. Positive reinforcement is not the best choice because it adds a pleasant consequence rather than removing an unpleasant one. Classical conditioning is different because it involves stimulus association rather than consequences shaping behavior. Response cost does not fit because it removes a privilege after misbehavior. Question 4. A CLEP-style scenario says a student receives an extra cleanup task after throwing paper and the behavior decreases. Which answer best captures it for Marco? Option A, positive punishment. Option B, positive reinforcement. Option C, negative reinforcement. Option D, shaping.
The correct answer is option A, positive punishment.
This describes positive punishment because an unpleasant consequence is added to reduce an unwanted behavior. Positive reinforcement is not the best choice because it adds something desirable to increase behavior. Negative reinforcement is different because it increases behavior by removing something unpleasant. Shaping does not fit because it builds behavior through small reinforced steps. Question 5. Inside a quiet study group, Marco studies why an instructor rewards each closer attempt as a shy learner gradually speaks louder in class. Which concept fits? Option A, reciprocal teaching. Option B, extinction. Option C, shaping. Option D, fixed ratio schedule.
The correct answer is option C, shaping. This describes shaping because successive approximations are reinforced until the desired behavior develops. Reciprocal teaching is not the best choice because it uses student-led reading strategies rather than behavior building. Extinction is different because it reduces behavior by removing reinforcement. Fixed ratio schedule does not fit because it reinforces after a set number of responses, not gradual progress. Question 6. Looking at the clue that an instructor stops laughing at off-task jokes and the jokes slowly fade away, which idea should Marco remember? Option A, spaced practice. Option B, extinction. Option C, modeling. Option D, punishment. The correct answer is option B, extinction. This describes extinction because a previously reinforced behavior decreases when reinforcement is no longer provided. Spaced practice is not the best choice because it improves memory through distributed study sessions. Modeling is different because it involves learning by watching others. Punishment does not fit because it adds or removes a consequence to reduce behavior more directly. Question 7. Marco sees that a learner keeps answering review questions because bonus points appear after unpredictable numbers of correct responses during a morning lesson. Which concept best explains it? Option A, fixed ratio schedule. Option B, variable interval schedule. Option C, variable ratio schedule. Option D, fixed interval schedule. The correct answer is option C, variable ratio schedule. This describes variable ratio schedule because reinforcement occurs after an unpredictable number of responses, which often produces steady responding. Fixed ratio schedule is not the best choice because it rewards after a predictable number of responses. Variable interval schedule is different because it rewards after changing time intervals rather than response counts. Fixed interval schedule does not fit because it rewards the first response after a set amount of time. Question 8. When Marco notices that the class work hardest right before a quiz that happens every Friday in a practice test workshop, which idea is being tested? Option A, token economy. Option B, fixed ratio schedule. Option C, fixed interval schedule. Option D, variable ratio schedule. The correct answer is option C, fixed interval schedule. This describes fixed interval schedule because reinforcement is available after a predictable amount of time has passed. Token economy is not the best choice because it uses symbolic rewards exchanged for privileges. Fixed ratio schedule is different because it depends on a set number of responses. Variable ratio schedule does not fit because it depends on unpredictable response counts. Question 9. During a tutoring table, Marco studies a case where a child copies a classmate's polite hand-raising after seeing the classmate praised. Which term fits best? Option A, classical conditioning. Option B, insight learning. Option C, the observational learning. Option D, trial and error learning. The correct answer is option C, observational learning. This describes observational learning because the learner changes behavior after watching another person and the consequences that follow. Classical conditioning is not the best choice because it links stimuli rather than modeling behavior. Insight learning is different because it involves a sudden solution, not imitation. Trial and error learning does not fit because it depends on personal attempts and feedback rather than watching a model. Question 10. In a classroom discussion, Marco asks why a student with strong belief in personal ability chooses harder practice problems. Which answer names the idea? Option A, intrinsic motivation. Option B, external locus of control. Option C, self-concept. Option D, self-efficacy. The correct answer is option D, self-efficacy. This describes self-efficacy because the learner's belief in their capability affects effort, persistence, and challenge choice. Intrinsic motivation is not the best choice because it refers to interest or enjoyment, not belief in ability. External locus of control is different because it attributes outcomes to outside forces rather than personal capability. Self-concept does not fit because it is a broader view of oneself, not task-specific competence. Question 11. After reading that a learner's competence, classroom behavior, and teacher response all influence one another, how should Marco label the concept? Option A, reciprocal determinism. Option B, classical conditioning. Option C, maturation. Option D, norm reference testing. The correct answer is option A, reciprocal determinism. This describes reciprocal determinism because personal factors, behavior, and environment interact in a two-way pattern. Classical conditioning is not the best choice because it focuses on learned stimulus associations. Maturation is different because it emphasizes biological growth rather than social interaction cycles. Norm reference testing does not fit because it compares scores to other test takers. Question 12. For a short exam review, Marco connects an instructor gives sentence starters at first and slowly removes them as the class improve with which principle? Option A, scaffolding. Option B, extinction. Option C, standardization. Option D, summative assessment. The correct answer is option A, scaffolding. This describes scaffolding because temporary support is provided and then withdrawn as learners become more independent. Extinction is not the best choice because it removes reinforcement to reduce behavior. Standardization is different because it keeps testing procedures the same for everyone. Summative assessment does not fit because it evaluates learning after instruction is complete. Question 13. Could a case where a learner can solve a problem with hints but not yet alone be an example of which concept for Marco? Option A, formal operational stage. Option B, zone of proximal development. Option C, reliability. Option D, mastery learning. The correct answer is option B, zone of proximal development. This describes zone of proximal development because the task sits between independent ability and what the learner can do with support. Formal operational stage is not the best choice because it describes abstract reasoning, not support level. Reliability is different because it concerns score consistency, not learning support. Mastery learning does not fit because it requires reaching a performance standard before moving on. Question 14. Why would Marco link a child calls a zebra a horse because it fits an existing animal category to one major educational psychology idea? Option A, encoding. Option B, accommodation. Option C, conservation. Option D, assimilation. The correct answer is option D, assimilation. This describes assimilation because new information is interpreted using an existing mental schema. Encoding is not the best choice because it is getting information into memory. Accommodation is different because it changes the schema to fit new information. Conservation does not fit because it is understanding that quantity can stay the same despite appearance changes. Question 15. A practice item tells Marco that a child changes the animal category after learning zebras are not horses. Which concept is most likely? Option A, class inclusion. Option B, rehearsal. Option C, assimilation. Option D, accommodation. The correct answer is option D, accommodation. This describes accommodation because an existing schema is revised when new information does not fit. Class inclusion is not the best choice because it involves understanding category relationships. Rehearsal is different because it is repeating information to maintain it in memory. Assimilation does not fit because it would force new information into an old schema. Question 16. Before answering, Marco identifies that a child solves conservation tasks but struggles with purely hypothetical logic. Which term should be chosen? Option A, concrete operational thinking. Option B, sensoromotor thinking. Option C, formal operational thinking. Option D, pre-operational thinking. The correct answer is option A, concrete operational thinking. This describes concrete operational thinking because children can reason logically about concrete objects but not fully abstract possibilities. Sensoromotor thinking is not the best choice because it centers on infant sensory and motor exploration. Formal operational thinking is different because it includes abstract and hypothetical reasoning. Pre-operational thinking does not fit because it often lacks conservation and logical reversibility. Question 17. Which choice helps Marco explain why a teen reasons through a hypothetical justice problem without needing physical examples in a mini-lecture? Option A, object permanence. Option B, formal operational thinking. Option C, concrete operational thinking. Option D, pre-operational thinking. The correct answer is option B, formal operational thinking. This describes formal operational thinking because abstract and hypothetical reasoning are key features of this stage. Object permanence is not the best choice because it is an infant understanding that objects still exist when unseen. Concrete operational thinking is different because it works best with tangible examples. Pre-operational thinking does not fit because it is marked by symbolic thought but limited logic. Question 18. How can Marco classify a classroom moment where an infant searches for a hidden toy instead of acting as if it disappeared? Option A, egocentrism. Option B, object permanence. Option C, conservation. Option D, centration. The correct answer is option B, object permanence. This describes object permanence because the child understands that objects continue to exist even when out of sight. Egocentrism is not the best choice because it involves difficulty taking another person's viewpoint. Conservation is different because it involves understanding quantity despite appearance changes. Centration does not fit because it means focusing on one feature while ignoring others. Question 19. Suppose Marco observes that an elementary student gains pride from mastering reading and classroom skills. Which concept is shown? Option A, industry versus inferiority. Option B, trust versus mistrust. Option C, identity versus role confusion. Option D, generativity versus stagnation. The correct answer is option A, industry versus inferiority. This describes industry versus inferiority because school-age children build competence through successful work and feedback. Trust versus mistrust is not the best choice because it centers on infant caregiver reliability. Identity versus role confusion is different because it is mainly an adolescent search for personal identity. Generativity versus stagnation does not fit because it focuses on adult contribution to others. Question 20. While reviewing, Marco sees a teenager explores values, careers and beliefs to answer who they are. Which idea matches the situation? Option A, identity versus role confusion. Option B, autonomy versus shame. Option C, intimacy versus isolation. Option D, industry versus inferiority. The correct answer is option A, identity versus role confusion. This describes identity versus role confusion because adolescents work toward a stable sense of self and direction. Autonomy versus shame is not the best choice because it describes toddlers building independence. Intimacy versus isolation is different because it usually involves young adult relationships. Industry versus inferiority does not fit because it focuses on school-age competence. Question 21. One interesting clue says a student says cheating is wrong because rules and community expectations matter. Which educational psychology term fits for Marco? Option A, moral realism. Option B, post-conventional morality. Option C, pre-conventional morality. Option D, conventional morality. The correct answer is option D, conventional morality. This describes conventional morality because moral reasoning is based on social approval, rules, and maintaining order. Moral realism is not the best choice because it treats rules as fixed and unchangeable. Post-conventional morality is different because it uses broad ethical principles beyond rules. Pre-conventional morality does not fit because it focuses on rewards and punishments. Question 22. From this example, where a child avoids lying mainly to escape punishment or earn a reward, which answer should Marco select? Option A, identity achievement. Option B, conventional morality. Option C, pre-conventional morality. Option D, post-conventional morality. The correct answer is option C, pre-conventional morality. This describes pre-conventional morality because moral decisions are driven by personal consequences such as punishment or reward. Identity achievement is not the best choice because it describes commitment after exploration, not moral reasoning. Conventional morality is different because it emphasizes rules and approval from society. Post-conventional morality does not fit because it reasons from abstract principles and rights. Question 23. Students in a practice test workshop discuss why a student argues that a rule should be challenged when it violates basic human rights. Which concept gives the best explanation? Option A, post-conventional morality. Option B, conventional morality. Option C, learned helplessness. Option D, pre-conventional morality. The correct answer is option A, post-conventional morality. This describes post-conventional morality because moral reasoning is guided by universal principles rather than simple rule following. Conventional morality is not the best choice because it generally supports rules and social order. Learned helplessness is different because it concerns giving up after repeated failure. Pre-conventional morality does not fit because it focuses on personal gain or punishment. Question 24. Teachers in a tutoring table wonder why an instructor plans choices that include music, movement, language, and spatial design. Which principle applies? Option A, norm reference testing. Option B, working memory. Option C, multiple intelligences. Option D, G factor. The correct answer is option C, multiple intelligences. This describes multiple intelligences because the approach treats ability as varied across different domains of strength. Norm reference testing is not the best choice because it compares learners to a group. Working memory is different because it is a limited mental workspace. G factor does not fit because it emphasizes a general intelligence factor. Question 25. Can Marco treat an assignment asks the class to solve problems, create products, and apply ideas in daily life as evidence of which concept? Option A, triarchic intelligence. Option B, multiple intelligences. Option C, criterion reference testing. Option D, fluid intelligence. The correct answer is option A, triarchic intelligence. This describes triarchic intelligence because Sternberg's model highlights analytical, creative, and practical intelligence. Multiple intelligences is not the best choice because it lists broader domains such as musical or bodily kinesthetic abilities. Criterion referenced testing is different because it measures performance against standards. Fluid intelligence does not fit because it refers to novel problem-solving ability. Question 26. If Marco must answer quickly, which idea is signaled when a learner studies child development because the topic feels genuinely fascinating? Option A, intrinsic motivation. Option B, performance goal. Option C, extrinsic motivation. Option D, negative reinforcement. The correct answer is option A, intrinsic motivation. This describes intrinsic motivation because the behavior is driven by interest, curiosity, or enjoyment of the activity itself. Performance goal is not the best choice because it focuses on looking competent compared with others. Extrinsic motivation is different because it depends on outside rewards or pressures. Negative reinforcement does not fit because it increases behavior by removing something unpleasant. Question 27. Rather than guessing, Marco should connect a student completes extra practice mainly to earn a gift card with which concept? Option A, self-regulation. Option B, mastery goal. Option C, extrinsic motivation. Option D, intrinsic motivation. The correct answer is option C, extrinsic motivation. This describes extrinsic motivation because the behavior is driven by an outside reward rather than the activity itself. Self-regulation is not the best choice because it involves planning and monitoring one's learning. Mastery goal is different because it emphasizes learning and improvement. Intrinsic motivation does not fit because it comes from interest or enjoyment. Question 28. Curiosity rises when Marco reads that a learner chooses difficult questions to improve understanding even if mistakes happen. Which term solves the puzzle? Option A, fixed mindset. Option B, avoidance goal. Option C, mastery goal. Option D, performance goal. The correct answer is option C, mastery goal. This describes mastery goal because the focus is on growth, learning, and skill development. Fixed mindset is not the best choice because it treats ability as unchangeable. Avoidance goal is different because it focuses on avoiding failure or embarrassment. Performance goal does not fit because it focuses on proving ability or outperforming others. Question 29. A CLEP-style scenario says a student studies mainly to score higher than classmates and appear smart. Which answer best captures it for Marco? Option A, mastery goal. Option B, performance goal. Option C, intrinsic motivation. Option D, metacognition. The correct answer is option B, performance goal. This describes performance goal because the learner is focused on demonstrating ability relative to others. Mastery goal is not the best choice because it centers on improvement and understanding. Intrinsic motivation is different because it centers on enjoyment or curiosity. Metacognition does not fit because it involves awareness and control of thinking. Question 30. Inside an after-school class, Marco studies why a learner explains a failed test by blaming effort, task difficulty, luck, or ability. Which concept fits? Option A, Constructivism. Option B, information processing theory. Option C, classroom ecology. Option D, attribution theory. The correct answer is option D, attribution theory. This describes attribution theory because it examines how people explain causes of success and failure. Constructivism is not the best choice because it emphasizes building meaning from experience. Information processing theory is different because it explains how information moves through memory systems. Classroom ecology does not fit because it focuses on classroom environment patterns. Question 31. Looking at the clue that a student stops trying because repeated failures made success feel impossible, which idea should Marco remember? Option A, learned helplessness. Option B, positive transfer. Option C, growth mindset. Option D, self-efficacy. The correct answer is option A, learned helplessness. This describes learned helplessness because repeated uncontrollable failure can reduce motivation and effort. Positive transfer is not the best choice because it happens when prior learning helps new learning. Growth mindset is different because it supports belief that ability can improve. Self-efficacy does not fit because it refers to belief in capability, not resignation. Question 32. Marco sees that a student treats mistakes as evidence that a skill can improve with strategy and effort during a mini-lecture. Which concept best explains it? Option A, entity theory. Option B, external attribution. Option C, growth mindset. Option D, fixed mindset. The correct answer is option C, growth mindset. This describes growth mindset because ability is viewed as developable through effort, feedback, and better strategies. Entity theory is not the best choice because it is another way to describe fixed views of ability. External attribution is different because it places causes outside the learner. Fixed mindset does not fit because it treats ability as stable and hard to change. Question 33. When Marco notices that a hungry, unsafe student struggles to focus on a challenging lesson in a peer study circle, which idea is being tested? Option A, Kohlberg theory. Option B, classical conditioning. Option C, Maslow hierarchy of needs. Option D, Bloom taxonomy. The correct answer is option C, Maslow hierarchy of needs. This describes Maslow hierarchy of needs because basic physiological and safety needs can affect readiness for higher-level learning. Kohlberg theory is not the best choice because it describes moral reasoning development. Classical conditioning is different because it explains learned stimulus-response associations. Bloom taxonomy does not fit because it classifies cognitive learning objectives. Question 34. During a Bright Review class, Marco studies a case where a student loses track while solving a long mental math problem with many steps. Which term fits best? Option A, sensory memory. Option B, procedural memory. Option C, working memory. Option D, long-term memory. The correct answer is option C, working memory. This describes working memory because working memory is the limited mental space used to hold and process information temporarily. Sensory memory is not the best choice because it briefly holds raw sensory input. Procedural memory is different because it stores skills and habits. Long-term memory does not fit because it stores information over extended periods. Question 35. In a quiet study group, Marco asks why a learner recalls a teaching theory studied weeks earlier. Which answer names the idea? Option A, selective attention. Option B, long-term memory. Option C, sensory memory. Option D, working memory. The correct answer is option B, long-term memory. This describes long-term memory because information retained over time is stored in long-term memory. Selective attention is not the best choice because it filters what receives mental focus. Sensory memory is different because it lasts only briefly after stimulation. Working memory does not fit because it is temporary and limited during active thinking. Question 36. After reading that a student turns a new vocabulary term into a meaningful example to remember it, how should Marco label the concept? Option A, retrieval. Option B, extinction. Option C, encoding. Option D, validity. The correct answer is option C, encoding. This describes encoding because encoding is the process of getting information into memory in a usable form. Retrieval is not the best choice because it involves pulling stored information back out. Extinction is different because it weakens a learned behavior. Validity does not fit because it concerns whether a test measures what it should. Question 37. For a short exam review, Marco connects a learner closes the book and answers questions from memory to strengthen recall with which principle? Option A, summative assessment. Option B, massed practice. Option C, centration. Option D, retrieval practice. The correct answer is option D, retrieval practice. This describes retrieval practice because actively recalling information improves later memory more than simply rereading. Summative assessment is not the best choice because it evaluates learning at the end of instruction. Massed practice is different because it compresses study into one long session. Centration does not fit because it means focusing on one feature of a situation. Question 38. Could a case where a student studies the same concepts in short sessions across several days be an example of which concept for Marco? Option A, shaping. Option B, massed practice. Option C, norming. Option D, spaced practice. The correct answer is option D, spaced practice. This describes spaced practice because learning is distributed over time, which usually supports stronger retention. Shaping is not the best choice because it reinforces gradual behavior changes. Massed practice is different because it packs study into one concentrated period. Norming does not fit because it creates comparison data for a test. Question 39. Why would Marco link a learner links a new theory to personal classroom experiences to one major educational psychology idea? Option A, elaboration. Option B, extinction. Option C, reliability. Option D, rote rehearsal. The correct answer is option A, elaboration. This describes elaboration because new information is made more meaningful by connecting it to existing knowledge. Extinction is not the best choice because it removes reinforcement to reduce behavior. Reliability is different because it refers to consistency of measurement. Rote rehearsal does not fit because it repeats information without adding meaning. Question 40. A practice item tells Marco that a student groups a long list of theorists into behaviorist, cognitive, and social categories. Which concept is most likely? Option A, chunking. Option B, response cost. Option C, accommodation. Option D, overlearning. The correct answer is option A, chunking. This describes chunking because information is organized into meaningful units to reduce memory load. Response cost is not the best choice because it removes a privilege to reduce behavior. Accommodation is different because it changes a schema to fit new information. Overlearning does not fit because it continues practice after initial mastery. Question 41. Before answering, Marco identifies that a student checks which topics are weak and adjusts the study plan. Which term should be chosen? Option A, classical conditioning. Option B, automaticity. Option C, metacognition. Option D, extrinsic motivation. The correct answer is option C, metacognition. This describes metacognition because the learner monitors and controls their own thinking and learning strategies. Classical conditioning is not the best choice because it involves learned associations. Automaticity is different because it means a skill requires little conscious effort. Extrinsic motivation does not fit because it depends on external rewards. Question 42. Which choice helps Marco explain why knowledge from a statistics lesson helps a student understand test reliability in a teacher training scenario? Option A, transfer of learning. Option B, negative punishment. Option C, cognitive dissonance. Option D, extinction. The correct answer is option A, transfer of learning. This describes transfer of learning because previous learning influences performance in a new but related situation. Negative punishment is not the best choice because it removes something desirable to reduce behavior. Cognitive dissonance is different because it involves discomfort from conflicting beliefs. Extinction does not fit because it reduces behavior when reinforcement stops. Question 43. How can Marco classify a classroom moment where an instructor gives a big picture concept map before a complex lesson begins? Option A, token economy. Option B, exit ticket. Option C, random assignment. Option D, advance organizer. The correct answer is option D, advance organizer. This describes advance organizer because a preview structure helps learners connect new information to prior knowledge. Token economy is not the best choice because it uses symbolic rewards. Exit ticket is different because it checks understanding at the end of a lesson. Random assignment does not fit because it places participants into groups by chance. Question 44. Suppose Marco observes that a learner uses an existing mental framework about classrooms to understand a new teaching method. Which concept is shown? Option A, rubric. Option B, reinforcer. Option C, percentile rank. Option D, schema. The correct answer is option D, schema. This describes schema because a schema is an organized knowledge structure used to interpret information. Rubric is not the best choice because it is a scoring guide. Reinforcer is different because it is a consequence that increases behavior. Percentile rank does not fit because it shows relative standing in a group. Question 45. While reviewing, Marco sees too many visuals, terms, and steps overwhelm a learner during a first lesson. Which idea matches the situation? Option A, egocentrism. Option B, reliability. Option C, intrinsic motivation. Option D, cognitive load. The correct answer is option D, cognitive load. This describes cognitive load because working memory can become overloaded when too much information must be processed at once. Egocentrism is not the best choice because it means difficulty taking another viewpoint. Reliability is different because it concerns consistency of scores. Intrinsic motivation does not fit because it concerns interest and enjoyment. Question 46. One interesting clue says the class build their own understanding through discussion, examples, and problem solving. Which educational psychology term fits for Marco? Option A, maturation. Option B, constructivism. Option C, standardization. Option D, behaviorism. The correct answer is option B, constructivism. This describes constructivism because learners actively construct meaning rather than simply receive information. Maturation is not the best choice because it emphasizes biological growth. Standardization is different because it keeps procedures uniform. Behaviorism does not fit because it emphasizes observable behavior and consequences. Question 47. From this example, where the class investigate a question, gather evidence, and develop an explanation, which answer should Marco select? Option A, direct instruction. Option B, norm-referenced assessment. Option C, fixed ratio reinforcement. Option D, inquiry-based learning. The correct answer is option D, inquiry-based learning. This describes inquiry-based learning because learning begins with questions and exploration rather than only direct telling. Direct instruction is not the best choice because it uses clear teacher-led explanation and guided practice. Norm-referenced assessment is different because it compares students to one another. Fixed ratio reinforcement does not fit because it rewards after a set number of responses. Question 48. Students in a peer study circle discuss why an instructor models a skill, guides practice, checks understanding, and gives feedback. Which concept gives the best explanation? Option A, discovery learning. Option B, direct instruction. Option C, portfolio assessment. Option D, peer tutoring. The correct answer is option B, direct instruction. This describes direct instruction because the method uses explicit teaching steps and structured practice. Discovery learning is not the best choice because it expects students to uncover ideas with less direct guidance. Portfolio assessment is different because it collects work over time. Peer tutoring does not fit because it uses students helping students. Question 49. Teachers in a Bright Review class wonder why the class work in small groups with shared goals and individual accountability. Which principle applies? Option A, cooperative learning. Option B, independent study. Option C, competitive learning. Option D, lecture method. The correct answer is option A, cooperative learning. This describes cooperative learning because learners collaborate while each member remains responsible for contributing. Independent study is not the best choice because it relies on solo learning. Competitive learning is different because it ranks students against one another. Lecture method does not fit because it centers on teacher presentation. Question 50. Can Marco treat an instructor adjusts tasks, materials, and support based on learner readiness as evidence of which concept? Option A, differentiated instruction. Option B, summative assessment. Option C, random sampling. Option D, standardized instruction. The correct answer is option A, differentiated instruction. This describes differentiated instruction because instruction is adapted to different needs while keeping meaningful learning goals. Summative assessment is not the best choice because it evaluates after instruction. Random sampling is different because it selects participants for research. Standardized instruction does not fit because it delivers the same approach to all students. Question 51. If Marco must answer quickly, which idea is signaled when a lesson offers text, audio, visuals, and different ways to show understanding from the start? Option A, tracking. Option B, universal design for learning. Option C, accommodation only. Option D, mastery grading. The correct answer is option B, universal design for learning. This describes universal design for learning because UDL plans flexible access and expression options before barriers appear. Tracking is not the best choice because it separates students into groups by perceived ability. Accommodation only is different because it changes access for an individual after a need is identified. Mastery grading does not fit because it focuses on reaching standards before moving ahead. Question 52. Rather than guessing, Marco should connect an instructor uses a quick exit question to adjust tomorrow's lesson with which concept? Option A, placement test. Option B, norm referenced assessment. Option C, summative assessment. Option D, formative assessment. The correct answer is option D, formative assessment. This describes formative assessment because the assessment is used during learning to guide instruction and feedback. Placement test is not the best choice because it sorts students before instruction begins. Norm-referenced assessment is different because it compares performance to other learners. Summative assessment does not fit because it judges learning after instruction is complete. Question 53. Curiosity rises when Marco reads that a final exam measures what the class learned after the unit ends. Which term solves the puzzle? Option A, diagnostic assessment. Option B, summative assessment. Option C, formative assessment. Option D, anecdotal record. The correct answer is option B, summative assessment. This describes summative assessment because the assessment evaluates achievement at the end of a learning period. Diagnostic assessment is not the best choice because it identifies starting strengths and needs. Formative assessment is different because it guides instruction during learning. Anecdotal record does not fit because it is a brief observational note. Question 54. A CLEP-style scenario says a student's score is judged against a fixed standard of mastery. Which answer best captures it for Marco? Option A, criterion referenced assessment. Option B, informal observation. Option C, ipsative assessment. Option D, norm referenced assessment. The correct answer is option A, criterion referenced assessment. This describes criterion referenced assessment because performance is compared with defined criteria rather than other students. Informal observation is not the best choice because it is not necessarily tied to a fixed standard. Ipsative assessment is different because it compares a student to their own past performance. Norm referenced assessment does not fit because it compares students to a reference group. Question 55. Inside a classroom discussion, Marco studies why a score report shows how a student performed compared with a national sample. Which concept fits? Option A, authentic assessment. Option B, criterion referenced assessment. Option C, formative assessment. Option D, norm referenced assessment. The correct answer is option D, norm referenced assessment. This describes norm-referenced assessment, because the score is interpreted relative to other test takers. Authentic assessment is not the best choice because it uses real-world tasks. Criterion-referenced assessment is different because it compares performance to a standard. Formative assessment does not fit because it is used during learning for improvement. Question 56. Looking at the clue that a test gives similar results when the same skill is measured repeatedly, which idea should Marco remember? Option A, validity. Option B, percentile rank. Option C, reliability. Option D, bias. The correct answer is option C, reliability. This describes reliability because reliability means scores are consistent across time, items, or raters. Validity is not the best choice because it asks whether the test measures the intended construct. Percentile rank is different because it reports relative standing. Bias does not fit because it concerns unfair advantage or disadvantage. Question 57. Marco sees that a math test actually measures math reasoning instead of reading speed during a teacher training scenario. Which concept best explains it? Option A, reliability. Option B, inter-rater agreement. Option C, validity. Option D, standard error. The correct answer is option C, validity. This describes validity because validity concerns whether an assessment measures what it claims to measure. Reliability is not the best choice because it concerns consistency, not meaning. Inter-rater agreement is different because it is one form of consistency between scorers. Standard error does not fit because it estimates score uncertainty. Question 58. When Marco notices that all examines receive the same directions, timing, and scoring rules in a final review session, which idea is being tested? Option A, authentic assessment. Option B, standardized test. Option C, informal assessment. Option D, portfolio assessment. The correct answer is option B, standardized test. This describes standardized test because standardization keeps testing conditions uniform so scores can be interpreted fairly. Authentic assessment is not the best choice because it asks students to perform realistic tasks. Informal assessment is different because it may be flexible and teacher-made. Portfolio assessment does not fit because it collects multiple pieces of work over time. Question 59. During a learning lab, Marco studies a case where the class design a real classroom plan instead of only selecting answers on a test. Which term fits best? Option A, standardized assessment. Option B, norm-referenced assessment. Option C, forced choice test. Option D, authentic assessment. The correct answer is option D, authentic assessment. This describes authentic assessment because students demonstrate learning through realistic tasks and products. Standardized assessment is not the best choice because it uses uniform procedures and scoring. Norm-referenced assessment is different because it compares performance to a group. Forced choice test does not fit because it limits responses to provided options. Question 60. In an after-school class, Marco asks why the class receive a scoring guide describing levels for evidence, clarity, and accuracy. Which answer names the idea? Option A, checklist. Option B, norm table. Option C, syllabus. Option D, rubric. The correct answer is option D, rubric. This describes rubric because a rubric lists criteria and performance levels for judging work. Checklist is not the best choice because it often marks whether elements are present without quality levels. Norm table is different because it helps interpret scores against a sample. Syllabus does not fit because it outlines course policies and topics. Question 61. After reading that an instructor moves the class from remembering facts to evaluating arguments and creating projects, how should Marco label the concept? Option A, Kohlberg stages. Option B, Erikson stages. Option C, Bloom taxonomy. Option D, Maslow hierarchy. The correct answer is option C, Bloom taxonomy. This describes Bloom taxonomy because the taxonomy organizes cognitive tasks from lower to higher levels of thinking. Kohlberg stages is not the best choice because it describes moral reasoning. Erikson stages is different because it describes psychosocial development. Maslow hierarchy does not fit because it organizes human needs. Question 62. For a short exam review, Marco connects a student with a qualifying disability has a legal plan with goals and services with which principle? Option A, lesson plan. Option B, individualized education program. Option C, norming report. Option D, rubric. The correct answer is option B, individualized education program. This describes individualized education program because an IEP documents specialized instruction, supports, goals and services for eligible students. Lesson plan is not the best choice because it guides a teacher's daily instruction, but is not a special education legal document. Norming report is different because it summarizes comparison data. Rubric does not fit because it scores performance. Question 63. Could a case where a student with a disability learns with non-disabled peers as much as appropriate be an example of which concept for Marco? Option A, least restrictive environment. Option B, standardization. Option C, tracking. Option D, retention. The correct answer is option A, least restrictive environment. This describes least restrictive environment because students should be educated in settings that provide access while avoiding unnecessary separation. Standardization is not the best choice because it keeps testing procedures uniform. Tracking is different because it groups students by perceived ability. Retention does not fit because it keeps a student in the same grade. Question 64. Why would Marco link a learner gets extended time while the learning target stays the same to one major educational psychology idea? Option A, accommodation. Option B, punishment. Option C, acceleration. Option D, modification. The correct answer is option A, accommodation. This describes accommodation because access is adjusted without changing the essential learning expectation. Punishment is not the best choice because it reduces unwanted behavior through consequences. Acceleration is different because it moves a learner ahead faster. Modification does not fit because it changes the learning expectation or task level. Question 65. A practice item tells Marco that a learner completes a simplified assignment with different learning expectations. Which concept is most likely? Option A, modification. Option B, scaffolding. Option C, accommodation. Option D, universal screening. The correct answer is option A, modification. This describes modification because the task or standard is changed to fit the learner's instructional level. Scaffolding is not the best choice because it gives temporary support toward the same goal. Accommodation is different because it changes access while keeping the same standard. Universal screening does not fit because it checks all learners for risk. Question 66. Before answering, Marco identifies that a strong thinker struggles with accurate word decoding and benefits from structured phonics. Which term should be chosen? Option A, percentile rank. Option B, dyscalculia support. Option C, dyslexia support. Option D, behavior contract. The correct answer is option C, dyslexia support. This describes dyslexia support because dyslexia commonly affects word reading and decoding, so explicit structured literacy support can help. Percentile rank is not the best choice because it reports relative test standing. Dyscalculia support is different because it focuses on math-related difficulties. Behavior contract does not fit because it targets behavior goals. Question 67. Which choice helps Marco explain why a learner focuses better with short tasks, movement breaks, and clear routines in a morning lesson? Option A, classical conditioning. Option B, ADHD classroom support. Option C, criterion testing. Option D, gifted compacting. The correct answer is option B, ADHD classroom support. This describes ADHD classroom support because structured routines and attention supports can reduce distractions and support self-management. Classical conditioning is not the best choice because it links stimuli with responses. Criterion testing is different because it compares performance to standards. Gifted compacting does not fit because it removes already mastered work for advanced learners. Question 68. How can Marco classify a classroom moment where an advanced learner skips mastered work and uses time for deeper enrichment? Option A, extinction. Option B, curriculum compacting. Option C, remediation. Option D, retention. The correct answer is option B, curriculum compacting. This describes curriculum compacting because already mastered content is reduced so the learner can pursue more challenging work. Extinction is not the best choice because it removes reinforcement to reduce a behavior. Remediation is different because it remediates skills that are not yet mastered. Retention does not fit because it repeats a grade or course. Question 69. Suppose Marco observes that examples, discussion norms, and materials connect learning to the class cultural backgrounds. Which concept is shown? Option A, colorblind teaching. Option B, standardized testing. Option C, culturally responsive teaching. Option D, ability tracking. The correct answer is option C, culturally responsive teaching. This describes culturally responsive teaching because instruction uses students' cultural knowledge and experiences as assets for learning. Colorblind teaching is not the best choice because it ignores cultural differences rather than using them constructively. Standardized testing is different because it keeps procedures uniform. Ability tracking does not fit because it separates students by perceived ability. Question 70. While reviewing, Marco sees an assessment unfairly disadvantages a group because examples depend on unfamiliar cultural knowledge. Which idea matches the situation? Option A, test bias. Option B, reliability. Option C, standard deviation. Option D, validity evidence. The correct answer is option A, test bias. This describes test bias because bias occurs when irrelevant factors give some groups an unfair advantage or disadvantage. Reliability is not the best choice because it concerns score consistency. Standard deviation is different because it describes score spread. Validity evidence does not fit because it supports appropriate score interpretation. Question 71. One interesting clue says the class transition quickly because procedures for materials and movement are practiced daily. Which educational psychology term fits for Marco? Option A, accommodation. Option B, summative testing. Option C, random reinforcement. Option D, classroom routines. The correct answer is option D, classroom routines. This describes classroom routines because clear repeated procedures reduce confusion and support orderly learning time. Accommodation is not the best choice because it adjusts access for a learner. Summative testing is different because it evaluates final achievement. Random reinforcement does not fit because it gives rewards unpredictably. Question 72. From this example, where the class earned points for target behaviors and trade them for privileges, which answer should Marco select? Option A, token economy. Option B, classical conditioning. Option C, mastery learning. Option D, logical consequence. The correct answer is option A, token economy. This describes token economy because tokens serve as conditioned reinforcers that can be exchanged for backup rewards. Classical conditioning is not the best choice because it links two stimuli rather than using exchangeable rewards. Mastery learning is different because it requires meeting standards before moving forward. Logical consequence does not fit because it is connected naturally to misbehavior. Question 73. Students in a final review session discuss why a student who misuses lab materials must repair the setup and review safety steps. Which concept gives the best explanation? Option A, extinction. Option B, unrelated punishment. Option C, negative reinforcement. Option D, logical consequence. The correct answer is option D, logical consequence. This describes logical consequence because the consequence is related to the behavior and helps restore responsible action. Extinction is not the best choice because it withholds reinforcement to reduce behavior. Unrelated punishment is different because it does not connect meaningfully to the behavior. Negative reinforcement does not fit because it increases behavior by removing an unpleasant condition. Question 74. Teachers in a learning lab wonder why an instructor spots small off-task behavior early while continuing the lesson smoothly. Which principle applies? Option A, self-efficacy. Option B, witness. Option C, scaffolding. Option D, wait time. The correct answer is option B, witness. This describes witness because witness means awareness of classroom events and quick response before problems grow. Self-efficacy is not the best choice because it is belief in capability. Scaffolding is different because it gives temporary learning support. Wait time does not fit because it is a pause after asking a question. Question 75. Can Marco treat an instructor pauses several seconds after asking a question before calling on anyone as evidence of which concept? Option A, response cost. Option B, witness. Option C, distributed practice. Option D, wait time. The correct answer is option D, wait time. This describes wait time because wait time gives students more processing time and often improves response quality. Response cost is not the best choice because it removes a privilege after behavior. Witness is different because it is awareness of classroom behavior. Distributed practice does not fit because it spreads study sessions over time. Question 76. If Marco must answer quickly, which idea is signaled when a prompt asks the class to explain several possible reasons instead of choosing one fact? Option A, fixed ratio schedule. Option B, open-ended questioning. Option C, closed question. Option D, recall cue. The correct answer is option B, open-ended questioning. This describes open-ended questioning because open-ended questions invite elaboration, reasoning, and multiple defensible responses. Fixed ratio schedule is not the best choice because it reinforces after a set number of responses. Closed question is different because it usually has one brief answer. Recall cue does not fit because it simply prompts memory of stored information. Question 77. Rather than guessing, Marco should connect. An instructor tells a learner exactly what worked and what to revise next with which concept. Option A, summative grade only. Option B, general praise. Option C, effective feedback. Option D, random correction. The correct answer is option C, effective feedback. This describes effective feedback because specific, timely feedback helps learners close the gap between current and desired performance. Summative grade only is not the best choice because it reports performance without next steps. General praise is different because it may feel positive but gives little guidance. Random correction does not fit because it lacks targeted connection to the learning goal. Question 78. Curiosity rises when Marco reads that a student sets a goal, monitors progress, changes strategies, and reflects after studying. Which term solves the puzzle? Option A, object permanence. Option B, operant conditioning. Option C, social facilitation. Option D, self-regulated learning. The correct answer is option D, self-regulated learning. This describes self-regulated learning because learners actively plan, monitor, control, and evaluate their learning. Object permanence is not the best choice because it concerns infant understanding of hidden objects. Operant conditioning is different because it emphasizes consequences shaping behavior. Social facilitation does not fit because it concerns performance changes in the presence of others. Question 79. A CLEP-style scenario says the class take turns summarizing, questioning, clarifying, and predicting during reading. Which answer best captures it for Marco? Option A, reciprocal teaching. Option B, random assignment. Option C, token economy. Option D, direct instruction. The correct answer is option A, reciprocal teaching. This describes reciprocal teaching because the strategy uses structured dialogue to improve comprehension. Random assignment is not the best choice because it assigns participants to groups by chance. Token economy is different because it uses symbolic rewards. Direct instruction does not fit because it is mainly teacher-led explanation and practice. Question 80. Inside a quiet study group, Marco studies why one student guides another through practice will both receive learning benefits. Which concept fits? Option A, peer tutoring. Option B, portfolio assessment. Option C, tracking. Option D, lecture. The correct answer is option A, peer tutoring. This describes peer tutoring because students support each other's learning through structured helper-learner roles. Portfolio assessment is not the best choice because it collects work samples over time. Tracking is different because it separates students into ability groups. Lecture does not fit because it is teacher presentation to a group. Question 81. Looking at the clue that a child identifies that cat and cup begin with the same spoken sound, which idea should Marco remember? Option A, syntax. Option B, morphology. Option C, phonemic awareness. Option D, phonics. The correct answer is option C, phonemic awareness. This describes phonemic awareness because the learner is attending to individual sounds in spoken language. Syntax is not the best choice because it concerns sentence structure. Morphology is different because it studies meaningful word parts. Phonics does not fit because it links sounds to printed letters. Question 82. Marco sees that a learner improves a skill after watching a confident model demonstrate each step during a morning lesson. Which concept best explains it? Option A, Piaget conservation. Option B, Bandura modeling. Option C, Skinner shaping. Option D, Maslow needs. The correct answer is option B, Bandura modeling. This describes Bandura modeling because Bandura emphasized learning by observing models and the outcomes of their actions. Piaget conservation is not the best choice because it concerns logical understanding of quantity. Skinner shaping is different because it reinforces gradual behavior changes through consequences. Maslow needs does not fit because it explains motivation through layered needs. Question 83. When Marco notices that family, school, peers, community, and culture all shape a child's development in a practice test workshop, which idea is being tested? Option A, Brenner ecological systems. Option B, Erikson psychosocial stages. Option C, information processing. Option D, Kohlberg moral stages. The correct answer is option A, Brenner ecological systems. This describes Brenner ecological systems because development is influenced by nested environmental systems around the child. Erikson's psychosocial stages is not the best choice because it focuses on lifespan social-emotional conflicts. Information processing is different because it compares thinking to mental processing systems. Kohlberg moral stages does not fit because it focuses on moral reasoning. Question 84. During a tutoring table, Marco studies a case where a young child uses a caregiver as a safe base and seeks comfort after stress. Which term fits best? Option A, industry versus inferiority. Option B, avoidant attachment. Option C, secure attachment. Option D, authoritarian parenting. The correct answer is option C, secure attachment. This describes secure attachment because secure attachment involves trust in caregiver availability and comfort. Industry versus inferiority is not the best choice because it is a school-age psychosocial conflict. Avoidant attachment is different because it shows reduced seeking of comfort. Authoritarian parenting does not fit because it describes strict parenting style. Question 85. In a classroom discussion, Marco asks why two infants differ early in activity level, mood, and adaptability. Which answer names the idea? Option A, temperament. Option B, criterion validity. Option C, moral reasoning. Option D, self-concept. The correct answer is option A, temperament. This describes temperament because temperament refers to biologically influenced patterns of emotional and behavioral response. Criterion validity is not the best choice because it links test scores to an outcome. Moral reasoning is different because it concerns judgments about right and wrong. Self-concept does not fit because it is a person's view of self. Question 86. After reading that a child says "goad" because a regular grammar rule is applied too broadly, how should Marco label the concept? Option A, language overgeneralization. Option B, babbling. Option C, telegraphic speech. Option D, code switching. The correct answer is option A, language overgeneralization. This describes language overgeneralization because the child applies a learned language rule to an irregular case. Babbling is not the best choice because it is early sound play. Telegraphic speech is different because it uses short two-word phrases. Code switching does not fit because it shifts language varieties based on context. Question 87. For a short exam review, Marco connects the class. Explain whether a character should break a rule to help someone in need with which principle. Option A, aptitude test. Option B, moral dilemma assessment. Option C, behavior checklist. Option D, achievement test. The correct answer is option B, moral dilemma assessment. This describes moral dilemma assessment because moral dilemmas reveal the reasoning behind judgments, not just the choice itself. Aptitude test is not the best choice because it predicts future learning potential. Behavior checklist is different because it records observed behaviors. Achievement test does not fit because it measures learned academic content. Question 88. Could a case where a study finds that homework time and test scores rise together without proving cause be an example of which concept for Marco? Option A, case study. Option B, experimental research. Option C, ethnography. Option D, correlational research. The correct answer is option D, correlational research. This describes correlational research because correlation shows a relationship between variables but does not establish causation. Case study is not the best choice because it examines one person or small group deeply. Experimental research is different because it manipulates variables to test cause and effect. Ethnography does not fit because it studies culture through immersion. Question 89. Why would Marco link participants are placed into tutoring or no tutoring groups by chance to one major educational psychology idea? Option A, matching. Option B, random sampling. Option C, convenience sampling. Option D, random assignment. The correct answer is option D, random assignment. This describes random assignment because chance placement helps make groups similar before the treatment begins. Matching is not the best choice because it pairs participants on key traits. Random sampling is different because it selects participants from a population. Convenience sampling does not fit because it uses whoever is easily available. Question 90. A practice item tells Marco that a researcher changes the type of feedback the class receive. Which concept is most likely? Option A, control variable. Option B, dependent variable. Option C, independent variable. Option D, confounding variable. The correct answer is option C, independent variable. This describes independent variable because the independent variable is the factor the researcher manipulates. Control variable is not the best choice because it is held constant. Dependent variable is different because it is the measured outcome. Confounding variable does not fit because it is an unwanted factor that may affect results. Question 91. Before answering, Marco identifies that a researcher measures quiz scores after using two different teaching methods. Which term should be chosen? Option A, independent variable. Option B, extraneous variable. Option C, dependent variable. Option D, random assignment. The correct answer is option C, dependent variable. This describes dependent variable because the dependent variable is the outcome measured to see whether the treatment had an effect. Independent variable is not the best choice because it is the factor manipulated. Extraneous variable is different because it is an outside influence. Random assignment does not fit because it is a grouping procedure. Question 92. Which choice helps Marco explain why one group receives regular instruction while another receives a new memory strategy in a mini lecture? Option A, experimental group. Option B, population. Option C, control group. Option D, sample. The correct answer is option C, control group. This describes control group because the control group provides a comparison for judging the effect of the treatment. Experimental group is not the best choice because it receives the treatment being tested. Population is different because it is the larger group of interest. Sample does not fit because it is the set of participants studied. Question 93. How can Marco classify a classroom moment where an instructor adds all quiz scores and divides by the number of the class? Option A, mode. Option B, range. Option C, mean. Option D, median. The correct answer is option C, mean. This describes mean because the mean is the arithmetic average of a set of scores. Mode is not the best choice because it is the most frequent score. Range is different because it is the difference between highest and lowest scores. Median does not fit because it is the middle score. Question 94. Suppose Marco observes that an instructor wants to know how spread out the class scores are around the average. Which concept is shown? Option A, standard deviation. Option B, mean. Option C, percentile rank. Option D, raw score. The correct answer is option A, standard deviation. This describes standard deviation because standard deviation describes typical distance of scores from the mean. Mean is not the best choice because it gives the average but not spread. Percentile rank is different because it shows relative standing. Raw score does not fit because it is the number of points earned. Question 95. While reviewing, Marco sees a student's report says the score is higher than the scores of 80% of the norm group. Which idea matches the situation? Option A, standard deviation. Option B, percentage correct. Option C, percentile rank. Option D, grade equivalent. The correct answer is option C, percentile rank. This describes percentile rank because percentile rank tells the percentage of comparison scores at or below a student's score. Standard deviation is not the best choice because it describes score spread. Percentage correct is different because it reports items answered correctly. Grade equivalent does not fit because it estimates grade level performance, often imperfectly. Question 96. One interesting clue says the class improved partly because they know they are being studied. Which educational psychology term fits for Marco? Option A, placebo effect. Option B, testing effect. Option C, observer bias. Option D, Hawthorne effect. The correct answer is option D, Hawthorne effect. This describes Hawthorne effect because participants may change behavior simply because they are receiving attention in a study. Placebo effect is not the best choice because it involves improvement from belief in a treatment. Testing effect is different because it improves learning through retrieval practice. Observer bias does not fit because it occurs when researcher expectations shape recording. Question 97. From this example, where the class improve over a semester because they naturally grew older, not because of the program, which answer should Marco select? Option A, regression to the mean. Option B, instrumentation threat. Option C, maturation threat. Option D, selection bias. The correct answer is option C, maturation threat. This describes maturation threat because changes due to natural development can threaten conclusions about a treatment's effect. Regression to the mean is not the best choice because it occurs when extreme scores move closer to average later. Instrumentation threat is different because it occurs when measurement changes over time. Selection bias does not fit because it occurs when groups differ before a treatment. Question 98. Students in a practice test workshop discuss why a researcher records detailed notes about classroom interactions instead of only counting scores. Which concept gives the best explanation? Option A, random assignment. Option B, meta-analysis. Option C, standardized testing. Option D, qualitative observation. The correct answer is option D, qualitative observation. This describes qualitative observation because qualitative methods focus on rich descriptions and meanings in context. Random assignment is not the best choice because it places participants into groups by chance. Meta-analysis is different because it statistically combines many studies. Standardized testing does not fit because it uses uniform measurement procedures. Question 99. Teachers in a tutoring table wonder why an instructor studies the effect of a new discussion routine in the teacher's own classroom. Which principle applies? Option A, action research. Option B, longitudinal research. Option C, survey research. Option D, laboratory experiment. The correct answer is option A, action research. This describes action research because practitioners investigate their own settings to improve local practice. Longitudinal research is not the best choice because it follows participants over time. Survey research is different because it gathers responses from questionnaires. Laboratory experiment does not fit because it tests variables in a controlled setting. Question 100. Can Marco treat families are told the study purpose, risks, and rights before agreeing to participate as evidence of which concept? Option A, confidentiality. Option B, debriefing. Option C, random assignment. Option D, informed consent. The correct answer is option D, informed consent. This describes informed consent because participants or guardians must understand key information and voluntarily agree. Confidentiality is not the best choice because it protects private data. Debriefing is different because it explains details after participation. Random assignment does not fit because it assigns participants to groups by chance.